West Ham have beaten off competition from the likes of Manchester United, Manchester City, Chelsea, Arsenal, you know, the usual protagonists, to sign a player that we already had on our books. But the reason this is important is because he's believed to be the best young up-and-coming midfield talent in the country, represents England at the age groups. He plays above his age group for West Ham. It's a really, really big deal. Tim Steidten's played a part. Mark Noble's played a part. That's what I'm going to talk about in this video. That's it, basically. And the reason I'm saying it like this, I took some criticism yesterday from a couple of people. Most people joined in with the jokes about Lopetegui pointing at the ball and David Moyes pointing at the bus. And I took a little bit of criticism yesterday saying you took too long to get to the point. So that's it. That's what I'm going to be discussing today. That's your TikTok version. You lot can buzz off now and the rest of us can have a chat about it. I never fully understood the criticism, quite frankly, because this is the channel of the going off on a tangent. This is the channel of the Pringle. This is the channel of going out on dog walks and talking about West Ham. No dogs at the moment, very, very sadly, but I'll be hoping to rectify that at some point in the future. This is the channel of the Dembeles, isn't it? This is the channel of trying to discuss if Michail Antonio had been dressed in a very, very different fancy dress costume, would he have crashed his Lamborghini? This is the sort of tangent we go off on. My goodness, one day I was doing a video and I walked in the middle of the video and went to get a pasty at Greg's, if you remember that, and found out that they discontinued my favourite. That's what we do on here. This is not your no-nonsense West Ham fan channel. This is your nonsense West Ham fan channel. This is the channel that used to have Michael Mondays, for goodness sake. So there you go. So, I make no apologies for superimposing a bus next to David Moyes and for making a little bit of a fuss about Lopetegui pointing at the ball. Lopetegui. I changed his name then slightly, didn't I? Anyway, there you go. So that's it. I find it a weird thing, a complaint on a YouTube channel. I do find that a little bit of a weird thing, actually. It's a bit like I don't know. It's a bit like going into Nando's and shouting that Wagamama's is a lot better. Anyway, there we go. That's it. That's me done for today. Well, not on that. We're going to discuss the football stuff now. But anyway, the young player's name is, and let me get this absolutely right, is Chinaza Nwosu. Now, I'm not going to pretend that I know lots about this kid. I really, really don't. But at the point you don't know a lot about him, you've got to rely on what other people say. You've got to rely on other information. And what you don't get is, whilst West Ham are very, very good at perhaps giving you information about the under-21s or under-18s, and you can watch this stuff, there's not an awful lot about the younger age groups. And this is important because this kid's basically 16, but he has played a few times for the under-18s. I think he was sort of representing England under-16s when he was a year younger, and he is very, very highly sought of. Now, the reason that this is incredibly important is in the last 12 months we've gone from not being able to hang on to our best young players. And when I say young players, I don't mean the likes of George Earthy. I don't mean the guys that have already signed scholarship terms. I'm talking about before you actually sign a contract at West Ham or any club, and where somebody else can actually just come out and take you before you've signed that big contract, before you've signed that deal. Only last year we lost somebody, I think his surname was Narlo, centre-back, again, thought to be a really, really brilliant young central defender. We lost him to Liverpool, I don't know if you remember, and there wasn't really anything we could do about it, but not just there was nothing we could do about it, we couldn't really offer any pathway into the first team. And the reason we couldn't do that is because we didn't have any joined-up thinking in terms of the first team, in terms of David Moyes, in terms of the academy. There was a bit of a power struggle going on. Let's put it that way. So this season, the fact that we've been able to keep hold of our best young player, despite the attentions of Manchester United and Manchester City, I think it's a pretty big deal. Because let's be fair, Manchester United, for example, can probably make a better case that their club gives youngsters a better chance. Now, I understand that there's a bit of an argument. You can make the point that Earthy got a game towards the end of last season. Obviously got the concussion, came back, scored the goal. You can point that Declan Rice came through at West Ham, but I could also make the counter argument that actually there's a lot of times when players don't come through, and Manchester United could point to Mainu. I know Garnacho's been on the scene for a couple of seasons now, but they can point to other young players who have come through, and they could probably say, look, forget everything else, forget the Academy of Football. Old Trafford is the place where you're going to get game time. Erik ten Hag truly believes in promoting young players, and I just think they could make a better case than us. So you could sort of understand why last season Liverpool were the same as well. You could understand why last season Nalo would choose to go to Liverpool. It's very, very hard for anyone to make the case that old David Moyes is going to give you a really good chance, as good a chance as anyone else. And I just believe that that's changed now. And what we hear, and this is the brilliant part about it, is that Tim Steidten and Mark Noble played crucial roles in keeping this guy here. Old Tim Steidten, I don't know how he does it, old Tardis Tim. Old Tardis Tim, it's a bit of a miracle really, because not only has he supposedly been in Brazil, he was in Brazil to have a look at Wesley, he was in Brazil to give Lucas Paquetá a cuddle, is in Brazil to look at getting another central defender, apparently. Was also in Austria, so we're here. Not seen him in the pictures, I believe that one least of all, but also he was in the UK just trying to speak to Nwosu, get him to sign his professional deal with West Ham. What's the truth? I don't know, but anyway, what I do know is that Steidten has clearly now created a pathway. So when Steidten turns around and says there's a pathway to the first team at West Ham, the players believe him. And do you know why they believe him? Because he's telling the truth. And do you know why he's telling the truth? Because he's created the pathway. And this is what sits in really nicely with the news that we heard last week, which was that he's been mandated to create all football operations at West Ham in his own vision. He basically has the ultimate power. It was first assumed that maybe Steidten would come in, help with a scouting, build a scouting department and be in charge of just recruitment. This is not the case. He is now in charge of even recruitment for the academy. So he's putting people into place now. Let me just say this, the academy are brilliant anyway. They don't really need much. They just need joined up thinking. And what it's done is it's also given Mark Noble more power than he had last season as well. I mean, this is the art of delegation. It's absolute finest. He knows he's got a manager in there, or a head coach, should I say, who's used to working along these parameters, who's used to a club that has that sort of joined up thinking. And I think this is really, really important. And now it empowers Mark Noble that he can go to these players and say, look, there is a pathway. And it's so good to have seen those pictures of Noble, of Steidten and Lopetegui all on the training ground. You just feel that not only does everyone know their role, everybody's not only comfortable in their role, but everyone's sort of enjoying it. And I mean, really, really enjoying it. You can definitely feel just from the way everybody's speaking, it's not just because I'm talking about it in my videos, that there's a real excitement about the prospects for next season. And it was really heartening to actually listen to Lopetegui talk about the young players and the young players getting a chance. So I think this is what you've got to look at if you're a youngster at West Ham. And that is there a pathway? What's the director of football saying? What's the head of the academy saying? Which is basically Mark Noble now. Does that translate into what the head coach is saying? Well, yes, the answer is yes. And then you can see the stuff for yourself. These guys have been taken away for pre-season. And I'm talking about Caden Casey, I'm talking about Orford, obviously George Earthy we've already mentioned. Now, I'm not going to pretend that stuff didn't happen. That David Moyes did take players away and involve some of the young players in pre-season. That happened, and that does. But you just feel that something is a little bit different now. And look, I'm fully aware, whenever we do these videos, somebody will say, oh, yeah, well, name what players have succeeded at West Ham, and somebody will throw up, a load of players who basically came through the academy who wanted to keep but failed. If you take that train of thought to its fullest conclusion, then what's the point in doing an academy at all? And I don't subscribe to that, because the point of the matter is there are also a lot of players who West Ham have let go or have left West Ham who've gone on to achieve really, really good things. So I think it's really important that you get your academy right. And at some point, what are we meant to do? Just dismiss the fact that we won the FA Youth Cup and just think, well, hold on, just because Harrison Ashby didn't work out, or whoever it might be, let's not bother blooding all of those youngsters, because it's just never going to work out. You can't do that, and never more so than now with a PSR, profit sustainability regulations. Bringing your youngsters through is going to be incredibly important, not just that you're going to be able to hopefully populate your squad with some players who haven't cost you much, but if you need to sell them on, that's 100% profit, of course, which is really, really important with the finances of football being as heavily scrutinised as they are now. So I think there's a lot to be buoyed about. There's a lot to be pleased about, and I think there's been such a race, and this chase for Nwosu has been so public in terms of him being coveted by a lot of the big clubs. I remember years ago, and remember we spoke to Harry Redknapp about this over on our Patreon, and years ago, it was Sir Alex Ferguson really wanted Joe Cole. He took him up to Manchester United. He showed him around. He gave him a Manchester United shirt. But basically, it didn't work. But it was a level of schmoozing that was really quite impressive. Now, I'm not saying this is on that level. And I'm not for a moment saying Chinaza Nwosu's going to be as good as Joe Cole. The fact of the matter is we don't know, but he's been schmoozed. They tried to entice him up there. It hasn't worked. We've seen him off. Now, it may not be that he's the one. Maybe it's someone else. Maybe it's someone that comes through next year. But the fact that we're able to keep him is really, really important. You get the impression Steidten's doing his job. You get the impression that certainly Mark Noble's doing his. We've yet to see whether Lopetegui's going to do his, but it's going to be really interesting. That's why we're going to get a nice little insight into it, aren't we, on Monday when the first pre-season friendly is on. That's going to be really, really interesting on that one. Before I go, I just want to say a massive thank you to our channel sponsors, ETC Sports, who are massive West Ham fans, proper West Ham season ticket holders, been with us a long, long time, continue to support Hammers Chat. We're very, very grateful. Just in case you don't know what ETC Sports do, basically they do sports surfaces, they do 3G football pitches, they do tennis court surfaces, and so if you're looking to get that sort of thing done, I don't mean if you've got a tennis court in your back garden. Well, if you have, go and give them a shout. The link's in the description below. But maybe you're on a council and you're deciding some new sports services. Maybe you are involved in five-a-side football and you want that all-weather pitch. Any of that sort of stuff, go and check out the link below. Give them a shout. Tell them you've come from Hammers Chat. Really, really great bunch of people over there. Proper West Ham fans, ETC Sports. They've been so good to us. I just want to say a massive, massive thank you to them. Right, I will catch up with you tomorrow. Big day tomorrow, not even from a West Ham point of view.